Thank you very much, Freedom Walker. I'd like to request for order and silence at the back. Would like to have a very robust conversation here around financial inclusion, matters around gender-based pay gaps, and any other issues which are emerging. And to do this with me, I am privileged to have an esteemed panel here. Faith Beth Boynet, Chairperson, Kenya Pipeline, is here with us. We have Sally Shage, Director, Transactional Banking at NCBA. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. We have Jackie Bitutu from EcoBank, where she heads Women Banking. Gwen Kinisu, CEO and MD, Prudential Kenya. Wow, that's becoming a contest, right? And finally, from Lionside First Eye Hospital, Dr. Rizwana Pierboy, who's the General Manager. Let's appreciate her as well. Thank you so much, and thank you for the order which is settling into the house. I appreciate that a lot. So, here's the context. We have been talking a lot about the way we need to empower women, and one aspect of that is the question of financing and funding everywhere across the board. So let me start with Jackie from EcoBank. You have 2 decades plus worth experience in women banking. What are some of the behavioral differences that you see, and how does that impact their creditworthiness?
Thank you. I spent a lot of time with women. I've actually had one-on-one conversations with more than 1,000 women, face-to-face. And this is what they say, and you can tell me if you agree or you don't. The first most important thing for a woman is God, her spirituality. That is the first thing, and whether we were speaking to women in Meru, speaking to women in Kisumu, in Johannesburg, Australia, or Wisconsin, the story is the same. The second most important thing for women is their health. A woman who's in bed means the family is also sick. So they worry a lot about their health and how they must be up and about to do what they need to do to keep running the family. And remember, in Africa, more than 80% of the farms are worked by women for free, not paid. The third thing that women worry about are their families. And that starts from their children. It extends to their spouses, extends to the homes where they sleep. Women are so serious about this issue to the point that they say, you know, if my husband won't build, I'll build and put him inside the house. We must have a house. And then the next thing that they worry about is the education of their children and their own education. Then they worry about their service to community. You'll see them in Jumia and Dogondogo, you'll see them in Chamas, you'll see them at the church, and then they worry about their legacy. What's going to happen to me when I'm not here? Thank you.
Jackie, let me hold you there, because all along I've seen Sally from NCBA nodding her head, almost approving anything. Sally, you want to come in and chime in on that point?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, beautiful ladies.
Once again, let's get some order at the back, please. Some order at the back. Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I'm nodding my head is because I am in total agreement with what she's just said. Women really treasure having a successful family. They want to succeed. They want their children to succeed. And therefore, the reason why we have this discussion around economic empowerment is because a woman is really focused on driving, you know, that level of success. Women, we are contributing a lot to the economy. We are employees, we are farmers, we are running our homes, we are entrepreneurs. And it's important that we, are supported from an economic standpoint. Am I being heard?
Yes. Can we have that mic, please, boosted a bit? You could take this one.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason why I'm nodding, because I'm just listening to the goals of the woman and the importance of supporting that woman for her to achieve her goals. Women are also interested in borrowing, really. And what we see, because of sitting in NCBA, we see that as they continue to grow their enterprise, they're interested in expanding their enterprise. They're interested in growing their funds. Again, I have a problem?
No.
Yeah.
He's just saying you lift it closer to your mouth.
Oh, he's saying I lift it. Okay. Yeah, they're interested in growing their businesses. They're interested in borrowing to educate their children, etc. So what we observe, and having looked at some of the studies, like for instance, the study done by FSD says a lot of these women are borrowing from, the mobile network, for instance. They're borrowing from chamas. They're involved in the community. They want to put up a water tank, for instance, to serve their water requirements. They go into chamas. They go into, self-help groups, and they put money together, and they buy these things that they require. So women are very entrepreneurial. They are very determined. She said they are determined. They are very, very determined for them to grow themselves, grow their community, and finally grow the future. That's why I was nodding.
Thank you for that, Sally. We've heard from the banking and financial services side. Let's hear from the medical side. Dr. Rizwana, what interventions are you doing around empowering women economically?
Okay, in our sector, and if I can speak to the healthcare sector itself, as you know, by and large, the healthcare sector already has a lot of women working at different levels. The way we try to empower them is by giving them alternative options for career growth, because sometimes they found themselves in a career just to be able to support the family. So what we do is give them alternative approaches to studying. We give them flexible approaches to studying, even online. Today with the digital platform, it's so much easier for women to be able to study at their own pace, at their own time, after they have taken care of their family and other needs. So we do this. The other thing that we do to create empowerment is to give them a little bit of peace of mind. When women come to work and they've had young children, they worry about this. So we've created a mom's room. We've created an internal SACCO. So these are some things that we have created within the institution, including multi-faith prayer areas, because some people, as we were told already, women care about their faith. So we've created all these things within the environment of the hospital so that women can take care of that, have peace of mind, and still be able to deliver on their career and grow on their goal. So these are the things that we look at, and we continue to see what else we can do to grow them.
Thank you, Dr. Rizwana. Let me come to Gwen right to my left here. Financial literacy is a very core component of this discussion. What are some of the things Prudential is doing to enhance financial literacy, especially among women?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Justin. So at Prudential, we believe that we're a purpose-led organization. And as part of our sustainability agenda, we delved into the issue of financial inclusion. And at the time, when the consideration of what we needed to do to be able to speak to that particular gap came up, let me give you a bit of a back context. So for an insurer like ourselves, the customer who makes the most sense for us to invest in their financial literacy is the older person, the 50-year-old plus person, because this is the person who has probably saved for 10, 15 years, is coming to collect their payment, or you're collecting a payment for a deceased person, etc. So at the time, we were thinking that we needed to do a financial literacy something for people at that age. But then we decided to go to the science, and the science showed us that the real opportunity to be able to make an impactful change in behavior for any human being is when they are between the ages of 7 to 12. So for any parents listening, that's the most impactful time. And so then we made a decision to come up with a curriculum for kids aged between 7 to 12. Why? Because we found out that money habits are actually established by the time children are about 7 years old. Habits, behaviors, beliefs are established at about that time. So the way our curriculum works is we've been able to split it. We use a blended model. So we have a curriculum for parents, We have, and with the curriculum for parents, we give them a home budget planner. We give them notes where they can actually start conversations on money. I remember the only conversation that used to happen in my mom's house about money was, I need this, and the response was always, I'm broke, right? And so what we try to do is to empower mothers to be able to have enriching conversations about money with their children. We also have a digital free online program that does not require you to put your details to be able to access it, because we want to be honest about not then spamming you with our products. And then the last thing is we also have been able to educate teachers so that they then carry forward our curriculum. So we partner with schools, and we are looking to partner with the government so that we can then actually deploy our curriculum to schools. And so when you look at it holistically, to your question about how then does this speak to women? It speaks to women as being the first teachers of their children. It speaks to the women who actually are a bigger constitution of teachers in our schools. When we did the training of trainers for teachers, there's a teacher in Mombasa who took over our curriculum and ran with it. And so she became the person who was like the club's owner for Chaching. And she asked us, where were you when I was a child? Because if I had done this, I would have so much more money, but I've been operating on loans. So we hope that through our curriculum, we can make an impactful change that will be there to allow individuals to make the right decisions around a very important aspect of our lives, and that's money.
So Prudential Kenya has a curriculum. Let's appreciate them for that sort of intervention, which I think many of us would have done a lot better in life if we had it at our time. Let's come to Kenya Pipeline. Faith, many times the energy sector is misunderstood, whether perceived or actual, and is perceived to be a sector which doesn't have women to a good percentage. And we're glad that you could be here with us. Maybe give us some thoughts around whether this is a misperception, and if that's the case, what are you doing to further bring in more women into the sector?
Thank you so much, Julian. Actually, it is a misperception. I'm the chairperson of Kenya Pipeline, and actually the second woman since inception in 1978. In the board, we have the two. Actually, the appointing authorities exercise the 2/3 gender rule, and apparently, out of the four committees, 3 of them are chaired by women.
That needs a clap, folks.
We have over 20 engineers, and most of them lead the divisions. In every department or division, when we advertise to recruit, we ensure that the 2/3 gender rule is exercised. We give the women a platform to prove themselves and get recruited to the company. Having said that, Kenya Pipeline is actually perceived to be one that is just about infrastructure. Pipelines, pumps, depots, men being engineers. But we have the charitable arm of Kenya Pipeline, which is the foundation. The Kenya Pipeline Foundation actually has two arms to it. There is the Inuka Foundation, and the Inuka Foundation educates children living with disability. That is 1 girl and 1 boy from the county, from the 47 counties. And this is done above board. One has to be registered with the National Council of People Living with Disability. And let me tell you, Julian, it has made a difference. And the scholarship is a full scholarship. It is tuition, it is remedials, it is the uniform. We also have the Inuka Empowerment Program, where we also empower the people living with disability, the women, and the youth. And on this one, the board has been in the forefront. I can tell you, Julian, I have done town hall sensitization programs where we educate the women on AGPO, where we educate the youth, to take up these opportunities. And I can tell you, we've run stimulus programs where we have injected capital for the women to be able to run their ideas. Because empowerment has to also be looked in myriad form. It cannot be purely formal. We have to look at those women who do not have the education. And what we do about it, their mothers, their wives, they have to take care of their children and the community. We have CBOs, those are community-based organizations, where we have funded the ideas of women along the pipeline. So it's a misconception. It is not all about pumping fuel and pipelines and pumps. It's also about touching the lives, sustainful, impacting the society.
Thank you, Faith. We managed to get some noise down there at the back. It's coming back. Please, let's have silence at the back, please. Let's have silence. Thank you so much. We began so well, but the crescendo keeps rising every time. So, thank you, thank you. Now, let's keep it that way. Thank you. Let me come to Jackie. Now, a while ago, I had a conversation with the former governor of the central bank, and he mentioned something which was very interesting to me. The bulk of mobile money transactions in this economy happen between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. The bulk of them are done by women. Speak to us about this habit and what tech does when it comes to women, in particular in finance. Let's keep quiet, please. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
That was my way of saying I like being listened to. So it's very true what the central bank found out. A big percentage of women transact before banks open. Let's say, for example, a woman who's trading at Kikomba. They always say that the phone is the first husband or the second one. It's usually in bed.
I hope it's the second one.
Second one, eh? So they will do all the transactions before they sleep. First, they do the first few transactions before midnight because of the limit, and then they do the next transactions just after midnight before they start taking their children to school. By the time you find a woman going to pick her goods, whether it's from Garissa Lodge, wherever it is, they already paid long time ago. But what can banks and other financial institutions do to capture this market? Remember that the relationship women have with banks is as follows. You don't care about me when I'm struggling. You watch me as I progress. Then you come and give me a loan. And then when I default, you take my stuff. So that lack of trust kind of relationship can be dealt using technology. So what financial institutions are doing now is looking at the woman holistically. Because if we go into looking at the woman and how she transacts in the bank, we'll only get less than 30% of her transactions. A woman will receive money today if she's selling handbags, send some to the mother before putting it in the bank account. Send some to the house girl before putting it in the bank account. They will mix their business and personal. When they come to an institution to look for a loan, what do we ask for?
Collateral.
A bank statement and collateral, which they don't have. But they have data which is at different points. So fintechs, telcos, and banks will play a great role in capturing this market and trying to lend to women in the way that they understand. Thank you.
Sally, this is right at the center of what you do. When we go to the bank, she's saying we will ask for statements and collateral. What is NCBA doing about this, especially when it comes to lending to women?
NCBA is a big technology lender, actually, a digital lender. We're in partnership with Safaricom. And through this partnership, we disburse loans, microloans digitally. And in our observation, when we look at the statistics, is that actually more women are borrowing than men. Yeah, so it's about 51%. More women are borrowing than men. However, the values are much less than the values that the men are borrowing. In terms of repayment capacity, the behavior is the same. So there's quite a bit of credibility around women and a bit of credibility around them being able to pay their facilities. So to Jackie's point, it's true. We have to look at alternative ways in which we can collect information on the credit history for the woman customer. But also, we must come up with programs to support the women, because we also know that collateral is a challenge. Women don't have property, they don't have collateral. So one of the things we've done at NCBA is that we entered into a partnership with Africa Guarantee Fund. And through this partnership, we're able to facilitate lending to especially women without need for them to generate collateral that's equal to the facility. So women can borrow, there's a guarantee. Therefore, it removes a very specific barrier, which is a need for collateral, which is the challenge that the women have. So because we have this guarantee, then women can borrow with much, much less from a collateral standpoint. So that's one of the key things that we've done to support women. But beyond that, there's a lot that we also do from a capacity building perspective. We educate women, we run women programs to just, increase their capacity. We run general programs as NCBA, for both women-owned businesses and men-owned businesses. We have a partnership with Strathmore School where we educate SMEs, we help them formalize, we help them learn how to keep their books. We help them learn how to, conduct marketing for their business, expand their businesses, etc. It's not specific to just women, but we're inclusive. So if we have women customers and men-owned businesses, all of them are supported. We also take our customers for trips abroad, for them to meet, to open new markets, meet additional suppliers for their whatever business that they do, build new relationships, etc., etc. So there is quite a bit that's happening in that space. Again, inclusive. It's both men and women, and we treat the women really fairly as we go about this process. For the other woman, the urban woman, for instance, who wants to invest her money, we run a masterclass for women and their money, and we teach them how to invest, how to think about the future. We had mentioned that the woman really wants to be able to have a nest egg that she can use into the retirement. So we also spend some time educating women on how to manage their money, how to manage their risk through insurance programs and things like that. And and that way we really, really support the women so that they can build a credible history over time for them to be able to continuously borrow.
Thank you, Sally, for speaking a lot to the subject of de-risking lending to women. And that's why I want to bring in Gwen, because you're on the side of the financial services where you underwrite risk. What are some of the trends you're seeing in terms of uptake of products like insurance among the women? If you could give us some flavor around that. As I ask for at the back, let's have silence once again. We keep on moderating, then we pick up again.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And I think even as I answer that question, it's interesting because the findings you have are the findings we have. That the highest needs of women revolve around family, revolve around health, revolve around legacy. Now, for us at Prudential, what we've seen is that it's not only important for us to have a diversity and inclusion proposition and strategy, it's also important that we're able to lead from the front. But inadvertently, we have found that the people who distribute our products from a retail perspective, so you and me, we have more women than men. Our highest performers are more women than men. And when you talk about the biggest buyers of insurance, we've found that even though the woman may not be the one paying the premium, she is a principal decision maker in how that is done, because she's having conversations in the home around, let's put some money in an insurance policy for education for our children. But then we also have legacy planning, right? And we're also finding, and I'm happy that it's a bit more balanced out, we're finding that people are now, especially at a certain economic level, are now trying to move away from the conversation of, I'm going to leave my children plots and houses, etc. And they're saying, let me leave my children an insurance policy so that they don't fight when I'm gone. And when I am gone, it's very clear to the insurance company how they should pay out my benefits. So I think we still have a long, long way to go in terms of ensuring that across every single layer, women are represented. I think I heard somebody say that we have made more advancement in the workplace than we have made in the home. Okay? Now, what that means is that whereas there's a big drive to ensure that there is a female inclusion in the workplace, we are also negating what that means at home. Because you cannot have women ascending the corporate ladder if they do not have the support they require at home. Because for me, if I'm not here and my nanny calls me and tells me there's no salt, it's a big emergency. It might not be for you because you've outsourced that to somebody else, right? So even at the workplace, if your children are falling behind with school, or if a child is sick, etc., back to the needs that women are looking for in insurance, it's then a woman who's probably going to be the one to make a decision to stay at home as opposed to the man if they are both going to work. So I think there's a balance between how do we de-risk, but also fundamentally, can we afford to de-risk? And what are the layers that support that?
De-risking is materially an affordability question. Very, very good point there. And that's why I want to bring in Dr. Rizwana. She's given us the finance side. But when you talk about access to quality and affordable healthcare service, what does this look like on a day-to-day? Because you look at it, and how does it impact the welfare of women?
Well, access to quality and affordable healthcare affects women a lot. And from what we see, especially where we go out into the rural areas where we run our camps for the women, what you find is a lot of them could be battling various levels of, for example, eye blindness. But because they can't afford it, they're not able to come and reach out. Yet, when we run the camp and we bring them, if you hear the testimonies, what they're saying is that now you've given us back the gift of sight, we're able to go back and tend and do our farming so that our children can go back to school. So these are the, this is how affordability is affecting our women. And also, when they're at home, they're able to contribute to the community, because if they farm well, like I'll give you an example where we're running a program with tea pickers, and where we screen the ladies, for example, we just gave them a pair of reading glasses and their productivity doubled the next day. So this is the impact of any affordability or any kind of care that we can give or have a program in place which would support women. And when you support women, of course, it goes out into the family, into the community, and into the economy. So that is how we see it as we, from where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. Let me come to Faith. As a woman in leadership in a parastatal, a state-owned entity, one of the key questions we normally receive is, we've seen so much affirmative action intervention from the government. What has this meant when it comes to equitable access to opportunities for you especially?
I think the crusade of the 70s and the 80s has borne fruit for us today. If it was not for that crusade, we would not all be sitting here. And I'm so glad today that one of the keynote speakers is Honorable Her Excellency Anne Waiguru, who she doesn't know, but she's my mentor. is here today as an epitome of that which has been a fruit of what other people suffered for. Julian, let me veer off a little bit. If it was a man by the name Mr. Madai who was speaking about sustainable development and asking to save forest and the beautiful part of Nairobi, I keep asking myself this question: would he have been crucified the way Wangari Maathai was crucified? So as we speak about women in leadership, it is not a mean feat. It is one that is supposed to be a step or a ladder where we, the women in leadership or decision making, are supposed to reach out and ensure that the full fruits of affirmative action are exercised. And I will say this: it is actually having women in decision making position that has fast-tracked some of this affirmative action, some of this the equity that we are seeking in the gender. So I think if we continue to have more women in decision-making position, then we are going to quickly achieve all this that we are calling policies, that are still policies crystallized in paper and not actualized. Like, for instance, the 2/3. I had the president say it has to be made a reality. Sometimes you have actually to put the very women in that decision-making position to make it a reality. So for me, it is not in futility to have women in decision-making position in decision-making positions. Yeah.
Thank you, Faith, for that. I want us to get to the close of our conversation, and I want to ask one general question to all of us, and I'll start with Jackie. So when we put our poster out around this panel, one of the questions I received was, I hope you will speak to the needs of the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, right? Around girls in that space. So let me start with Jackie. When you look at that crop of ladies, how fundamentally different are they from the ones you were interacting with 20 years ago? And what are you tailor-making for them? Very briefly.
Thank you for asking that. I have two daughters. One is 20 and the other one is much younger. And when I look at them, in terms of inclusion, they are living it. We did the journey. We are still looking for the fruits. They are living the fruits, and they're asking for what is beyond today. They're not thinking that it was like this 10 years ago. They're saying, here we are today. So let me give you a very complicated example. I did get my boys to start going out earlier than my girls, and they are just 1 year age difference. When my daughter said she was going out, I asked the boys to take her out. She's never forgiven me.
She's never forgiven you?
She said that they are of the same age group, but I felt that because my boys are men, they needed to watch over her. But when they went out, the boys were easy, but still watching my daughter on the corner. So the significant difference is that they have been brought up in this space where they are liberated and they're enjoying the fruits and they're asking for more. We have come from a space of suffering to get it, so we're a bit more lenient. But when you bring them to the workspace, they understand mental health. They will sit in a meeting and they will tell you, I sense some negativity and I'm thinking maybe I should take a 5 minutes break. That is unheard of in the days that my dad was a colonial teacher. But they do say that. And if you call them at 10 in the night and give them an assignment, they are going to do it until 5 o'clock and they're going to come to the office at midday and tell you, I was working through the night, I now feel better, do you have more work for me? If you're going to fire them for that, you're the one who's going to lose. So it's a different space. We have to be specially enabled to deal with this new generation. In terms of money, people say that the new generation talks about YOLO, they talk about all these things. They're financially savvy. And parents who know it are taking their children for financial fitness academies at the same age that she talked about. And banks are doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Gwen, your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, so we are fundamentally different. I think the difference between, like, I like the word she used, that we've struggled. And I think, and it's a good thing that Gen Z has been born into privilege because they're standing on the shoulders of those who went before them. I like the way my fellow panelist from Kenya Pipeline said that I think you were referring probably to Maendeleo Wanawake because that's where it began. I know that Gen Z doesn't know what that journey was about, Wangari Maathai, etc., etc. But I think in terms of what those differences look like, it is one, I think they are a lot more confident at a much younger age. They are a lot more exposed and therefore know a lot more. And perhaps that confidence can be tapered down with reality, right? But then there's also, I think, the reality of what my colleague here has mentioned, that I also find that they are that much more fragile than we were. And so when you think about ascension into senior roles in society, whether it's in the health sector, in the political sector, corporate community, etc., etc., I think for me, one of the things that I worry about is the idea that with Gen Z, we want to get there as quickly as possible with the perks that come with it as fast as they can. But I don't think that they acknowledge and they realize, and I hope that they do with experience, because we also learned that it comes with a lot of sacrifice. And as a woman, some of those sacrifices look like, if I am going to be a CEO, it means that I am going to sacrifice a lot to be able to do that. I will sacrifice time with my family. I will have mom guilt. I will not be there every time I want to be there. But also that I will probably have to work harder than my male colleagues, and I will have to go through biases that are incorrect and false narratives. So I'm constantly disproving that which I do not understand. So those sacrifices and that hard work and generating a tough skin over time is some of the things that I think we need to pass on to Gen Z as they think about what the future looks like.
Thank you, Gwen. Sally?
Yeah, I also have the privilege of having some Gen Z's children. And yes, both of you have mentioned that they are very different, fragile, all those things we've observed. But I venture a thought that because they have grown a little bit differently, they may not have as much cultural baggage as we all do. And therefore, they will probably progress the gender equity discussion and advancement much faster than maybe we have. They look at themselves and their counterparts, whether ladies or gentlemen, as equal, and therefore, and they believe that they can do, the same thing that the fellow man can do. So I am confident that in that space of inclusion and empowerment of the woman, they will make a great deal of progress. They said that they do not believe in hard work, but I also see that they venture into many other things than we did. We were all focusing to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, and accountants, but they're into art. They're into human activities, social justice. They will do something for the animals. And I think as an industry, we have to figure out how to support them as they venture into all these enterprises that are very, very different from what we have experienced. But yes, they've expanded the space for sure.
Thank you, Sally. Dr. Rizwana, you want to add something?
Thank you. I think three ladies before me have said it, but what I do agree with is that the Gen Zs, they tend to be very equal with each other. They tend to be very comfortable in that space. And I feel that even the boy child is accepting them in that way. So they come across much stronger. The only thing that I think about and worry about is when it comes to what they do with their lives, they're equal and they're at parity. But there is the difficult challenge of motherhood, the intuition of the family, and how do you balance that? So I think maybe just as they said that they have the curriculum, we need to start teaching them financials early, but I think we need to teach them what do you really want in life and the balance, because you could find you end up growing up too much later and then some things you feel you left out. So this would be, I think, a consideration that we would have to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Donk. Faith, as you pick the mic, we have 5 minutes to go, so I want to invite all of you to make a closing remark. So start off, and as you give your closing thoughts.
I'll speak to the generation of Gen Z. They'll bring down the barriers, the societal, cultural barriers of tribalism. They'll break the glass ceilings where we feel there are particular opportunities which are meant for the girls and those meant for the boys. As for the excesses that we worry about as parents, nature has a way of checking those excesses. Yes, so that's what I have to say about the Gen Z.
And your closing thoughts? Just start from there.
My closing thoughts. As I prepared for this plenary today, I had a lot of reflection on the journey that we have made as a country and the globe. In as much as there's still so much to do, I got my inspiration from the Proverbs 31 woman. It might sound a bit primitive, but as I read that scripture today, I realized that it was in the making of God that a woman should be self-sustaining. The Proverbs 31 woman, she clothes in linen that is fine and purple. She does not eat the bread of idleness.
Amen.
She actually finds land and buys it. And to conclude,
thank you, Faith.
And to conclude, she ensures that her trading is profitable. So for me,
thank you.
So for me, my closing remarks, Dr. Julian, is to say that let us just not sit and wait as women. I think the strongest force on earth is the force of a woman who is determined to rise. So rise, women, rise, rise.
Thank you, Faith. Let's come to Jackie, a minute for your closing thoughts.
For me, I have two things. Number one, there's this perception that women are the worst enemies of each other, something like that.
Yeah.
But we had a lesson today on our webinar for International Women's Day at Workplace, and we were told that women have changed, and I believe they've changed. They will adjust for you the crown if it's crooked, and they will not tell the world that it was crooked. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Sally, your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are that we have made good progress, but we still have a lot to go. And there is one underserved, level that we haven't spoken about today, and we probably cannot exhaust. There are those marginalized women. There are the disempowered women, women who are facing gender-based violence, women who have all sorts of challenges that would need to be supported, and empowered for them to continue to live and achieve the aspirations that we have spoken about, that are the aspirations of a woman. There would be specific, we would have to come up with specific innovative solutions to address those women who are marginalized and who are disempowered. But we're making progress. The mere fact that we're having this conversation is good progress, and we should continue to push, and each one of us has a role to play to drive that conversation to its logical conclusion. Thanks.
Thank you, Sally. Dr. Rizwana, in a minute.
Yes. Thank you, Julian. I think we've had a very engaging time. And as I was preparing to come here, I remembered my days when I began 40 years ago. When I did a degree in computer science, it was a men's world. Not even 1% of the graduating class was women. And I think we've done an amazing progress in very many spheres. But as we have just heard, there are segments of society where we need to empower women, or we will need to create policies and processes for women who might have struggled to bring them up to speed with the rest so that we can bring real gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Gwen, close it for us.
Okay. My closing remark to all women who are listening is, let's invest in ourselves. Invest in ourselves, invest in our growth, invest in making ourselves the best versions of who we are. We can't do that if we do not take the time to know who we are. The longest relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. So you can only know where you need to grow if you've spent time identifying that. In the spirit of what we are celebrating today, which is Inspire Inclusion, my closing remark along that line is, you cannot inspire if you're not inspired. So let's invest in that inspiration.
Thank you, Gwen, and let's appreciate my panelists for a very illuminating conversation, the noise notwithstanding.